The Crusaders, journalists getting involved.
It began with a father's wish and a devoted son's promise to make it come true. But when baseball players and owners called it quits for the season, it looked like Ed Kelly would never get to see his beloved Orioles play again. You see, Ed has cancer, and doctors say he might not live to see another baseball season. So we launched a crusade to keep that dream from being shattered and that promise from being broken. Reporter Randy Page brings together a father and son on their own field of dreams.
It's an 8-2 ball game.
The rest of the baseball season has been canceled, as have the playoffs and the World Series.
Runners are held to 90 feet apiece.
Dear editor, this is difficult to write. I'm an average guy raised in Rochester, New York, youngest of 7 kids, now living in New England. My father still lives in Rochester, and he has a love of baseball that spans 70 years. Last December, my wife and I gave my dad a framed print of the new ballpark in Baltimore, along with a promise to take him to the home of his beloved Orioles. The promise became a mission when I learned that my father has cancer and is not expected to live to see another fall.
This is where the Kelly family's love for the Orioles began, Rochester, New York, home of the Orioles farm team, the Rochester Red Wings.
Yeah, watched the players coming through, and most of them ended up being Baltimore Orioles. Well, my number one favorite has always been Boog Powell.
Koufax now faces the massive Boog Powell. And the big...
Ed Sr. shared his love of baseball with his youngest son, Ed Jr. They would go to games together and share indelible memories.
When you're a kid, your father is your access to this other world. So you, as a kid, I think you put your dad right on the team. You know, every kid does. You know, when something happens on the field, you look at your dad. When you don't understand something, you look at your dad. He's the key to the whole thing.
Years later, Ed Jr. jumped at the chance to take his dad to see Baltimore's new stadium, Oriole Park at Camden Yards, so they could watch the team they'd loved for all these years one last time.
We had tickets for the 12th and 13th, and they went on strike the night of the 11th, and the whole thing just crumbled. This trip was not about baseball, but it needed baseball for it to happen. This trip was about fathers and sons resolving things and storing memories, about a son getting that 1-in-a-million chance to make his parents' dreams come true, just as they always tried to do for him. Now the owners and players have canceled my dad's dream. Over what? Sincerely, Ed Kelly.
We wanted to help Ed Kelly store some of those memories he spoke so eloquently about in his letter, but we knew we couldn't bring baseball back to Camden Yards this season. So instead, we decided to bring baseball to Ed Kelly.
USA Expressway 3827 serves the Baltimore's board all passengers for immediate departure.
As we put Ed Sr. on a plane to Baltimore with his wife of 43 years, Mary Ellen, and his son, Ed thought he was going to join one of the daily tours at the new Oriole ballpark and nothing more. He had no idea about all of the surprises that were in store for him. Soon after arriving in Baltimore, I asked the Kellys to stop by my hotel room. Ed didn't know that waiting to meet him was one of the finest third basemen in baseball history, Oriole Hall of Famer Brooks Robinson.
Bounce toward third. Brooks Robinson out to the left, a fine play on to Johnson for one, double play. Well, I can certainly see now why they say that Brooks Robinson is one of the greatest third basemen in baseball.
What? I didn't want you to go to the ballpark without meeting somebody, so there's a gentleman I'd like you to meet here.
That's great.
Mr. Brooks Robinson.
How you doing? Ed Kelly. Well, you think this is your life, all about it, right?
I just saw you on the booth last night.
baseball's been his life, and I just wanted to come down and say hello to him and tell him we're thinking about him, and we're happy he's here.
The next morning, a limousine brought us to Oriole Park, and Ed Sr. didn't even notice all of the other reporters who'd shown up to tell his story. All Ed could see was the ballpark.
Incredible.
Closer to it.
This is a 1 in a million thing.
Yeah.
Well, where did it go? Thank you.
Easy, Bert.
Where's the net?
Ed, if you do me a favor and just look up at the scoreboard. Then the stadium's PA system came to life as former Orioles in uniform emerged from the bullpen.
Current Oriole bullpen coach, Elrod Hendricks.
How you guys doing?
Great.
How are you? All right, Hendricks.
How are you?
Mike Flanagan.
Over here. Mike Flanagan.
Mr. Flanagan, nice to see you.
From Rochester, huh?
Yep. I remember them all.
Does any one player really stand out in your mind?
Now, if I answer that, are some guys going to get mad?
No, they won't get mad, I promise.
Boog Powell.
Boog Powell?
Boog Powell.
Boog Powell.
Why is that?
Who's that guy?
Huh?
Who's that guy?
Well, he was a skinny little first baseman.
There you got him.
Hello, man. How you doing? Boog Powell. Yeah, he ain't so skinny anymore. How you doing? Stand up for this. How you doing? Good. Geez, I said the right thing.
What do people like Ed Kelly mean to you?
He is the soul and backbone of baseball. And that's what he is. That's what Ed Kelly is, the heart and soul of baseball.
We can't finish this off without at least one more surprise.
Yeah, all three of them.
Ed, Frank, Boog, and Brooks.
Thank you so much.
You know what Boog Powell told me today? He said, "You are the heart and soul of baseball." That's what he told me.
Me and a couple million other people.
Yeah.
Hear ye, hear ye. Players and owners. Don't forget us.
That's great.
The end of a perfect day.
The thoughts in Ed Jr.'s letter which brought us here take on a whole new meaning at the end of this eventful day.
This trip was not about baseball, but it needed baseball for it to happen. This trip was about fathers and sons resolving things and storing memories, about a son getting that 1 in a million chance to make his parents' dreams come true, just as they always tried to do for him.
Ed Kelly Jr. told me baseball was a common thread he and his father always shared, even during those turbulent adolescent years when fathers and sons often don't see eye to eye. Now, Ed Jr. is about to become a father himself, and he tells me he looks forward to the day when he'll walk into the ballpark for the first time with his child to carry on his father's love of baseball.
That's wonderful, Randy. I remember seeing those guys play when I was a kid. Elrod, Boog Powell.
Great players and real good people.
Very nice. Great. We'll be back in just a moment. Please stay with us.
Later, his identity was a mystery for half a century.
I didn't know the pitcher was taken.
But we've got him.
That's enough to convince me.
And he's still got it. But next, she's made a promise.
We can't stop feeding the children.
And nothing's going to stop her from keeping it.
They can put us in jail. I'm prepared to go.